Hello everybody, how are you today? We are going to be starting a new project. So each of you are going to get a sheet of paper just like this, and what I would like you to do first is grab a pencil, just any pencil. If you need a sharpener, I'll have some sharpeners out. And what I would like you to do first to start off with, I've got a video here that's going to explain what our project is going to be. If you need to pause it at any time, feel free to pause it and then you can catch up and then restart the video again. What I'd like us to do first is we are going to start with our name down here in the bottom. You're going to write your name right here, and we're going to be doing a perspective lesson. So what you're going to start off with first is towards the lower middle right here, you're just going to very lightly sketch a horizon line across, just like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's going to be bumpy anyways. We're going to want it a little bit bumpy, so you can kind of sketch it. If you can't get a perfect line, just do a couple lines like this and just lightly sketch it across. Then what you're going to do is right here in the center, you're going to do a small dot. You can do it lightly on your paper sleeve because you're going to erase it later, but you're going to do a very small light dot. Then on each side, you're going to do one large rectangle, just like here. Go slow if you need to. A rectangle here. And then another one on this side right here. All right. There. And then what you're gonna do, after you have these two rectangles, it's okay if they're not the same. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. And if you have a little mess up, that's fine too, because we'll come back to it. Mistakes are okay. Don't stress yourself out if you don't have it perfect. But then what you're gonna do is you're gonna add in diagonal lines from each corner back to this point. This is called our vanishing point. So if you know from different landscapes, when you look off into the distance, whether buildings or even in trees or mountains or hills, as you look farther and farther away, things tend to get really small, and they look almost as if they're vanishing into a single point. So what you're going to do is each of these corners, you're going to take the corner and draw a very light line to that vanishing point from each corner. You can kind of go over it a few times. Just very lightly. You want to try to get it straight as possible, but just go very lightly. If you need to sketch it and do it a few times like this, that's fine. Just do it just like that. A direct line from each corner to the vanishing point. So there you can see, as you can see from the pictures, they're starting to look three-dimensional already. And if you haven't guessed yet, we are going to be making some buildings. So you're gonna have, this is gonna be your sky up here. You can add in some clouds if you wanna add in sunset or whatever you wanna add in there. Then we're gonna add here, we're gonna make these our buildings. So you're gonna decide how long you want these buildings to be. So if you're gonna want them to be about that long, it can be a fairly decent size. Then you're just gonna do one straight line here. So it's gonna be a 3D box. Most of you probably have done a 3D box before, but just like that, there you have your 3D box. So that's gonna be our city building, first one. You can even add in a few more just by doing those straight lines. You do one line here, you connect it. The only thing that you have to remember though is if you go across like this, that's what makes your square, is you can't keep going straight up and down. These ones have to be parallel, but then these ones all go this direction if you want it to be in the same row. You can make some other buildings in the front here if you would like, but you just have to remember that each of the corners will direct into the vanishing point, just like that. So they're gonna go exactly into the vanishing point. That's how they stay in perspective. Otherwise, if you go off of that, and if you have it go crazy, then it will not look proportionate and it won't look realistic either. So we'll do the same thing on this side. You can go over these lines, the ones that you want to keep. After you sketch lines, you can go over it so that they stay at the ones that you want to keep. You can decide which ones you want to stay. Oh, and actually now I noticed that this one's a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna make this a little bit straighter here. I went too wobbly. That's right, because then I'll just make that into a shadow. Okay, so there's your other building. All right, and we'll fix that one. I'll get my eraser later and we'll fix that. It's nice with pencil that you can erase because you can always go back and fix your mistakes. So what we're gonna do then is you're gonna start adding in some characteristics to these buildings. What do buildings all have? They have some sort of entryway. You can make a fancy doorway. We're gonna add in even maybe some trees. Actually, I could put a tree here to cover up my mistake. That would work. Trees are pretty easy. All you have to do is basically the letter Y. You see how you have the Y here with then some sort of a base on the ground. Do it lightly till you know you got it right. Draw light till you got it right. Draw light till you got it right. Then you're gonna do all these little branches. It's basically, you're just doing a bunch of letter V's and Y's. So however big you want the tree, maybe we could make it a little bit bigger. You can make a tree even like the one in New York City or Chicago, the big Rockefeller Christmas tree, if you want to make it Christmassy looking. Or you can just make it a simple fall looking tree. I'll add a few leaves here. All right, then we're gonna add in, I'm gonna fix these lines a little bit. It looks a little crooked to me. Okay, we're gonna add in maybe a roof, a little chimney or a power box or something on the top of the roof. Oh, also, for example, if you add something like this, to make it three-dimensional too, you're gonna wanna have that same line here kind of get in the direction of the vanishing point. Obviously, you don't want to connect it through there because that's difficult, but you want to have it in the same general direction of the vanishing point so that it doesn't look like it's disconnected from the building. Then these windows on this side, since they're pointing straight at you, they are going to be just straight like this. I mean, you're going to take your time and you're going to make it nice and neat. Each window is going to be straight. I'm doing it quickly just so you can get the idea, but I'm going to go back and make it much cleaner and make it more realistic. All right, then you're going to add in these here. But on this side, this is where it gets tricky. Technically, if you want to, you can draw the perspective lines so you get them all to match up. So you can even add just like this all the way to that dotted line, because each of the windows are gonna line up with this diagonal line here. And now these ones will be covered up by our tree, which that kind of helps in our favor. But here, right here especially, you're gonna want these lines because they are gonna help you get the windows to look the right way. Have you ever noticed the drawing? Sometimes if you've had trouble getting the windows to look realistic, if you're looking from a photograph or something, that's because it's mostly probably due to perspective. So you're gonna want these windows to follow along the lines of your perspective. Each one is gonna line up here, oops. And you can do it a couple times, that's fine. Most artists don't even get it on the first several tries. You gotta keep erasing, that's why you draw light till you get it right. Now my pencil's getting a little smudgy in here. But then you're just gonna keep going. However many windows you wanna add, or if you want even add some like designs in the building, you could do a design in the building if you wanna break it up. But anything that you do on this side of our cube is gonna have to line up with the perspective here. So you're gonna wanna line it up. You can even add another building again in the distance here. We could add another small building. And then remember, when you go this way, it has to be straight across. So if those of you who love math, you need to make sure that this creates a 90-degree angle right here, if you know what a 90-degree angle is. So it's going to have to be a straight corner right here, but then the other side, this is where it starts to get smaller on this side of the cube. So there, it starts to look like some buildings here. What we're going to add in too to help enhance our perspective drawing is going to be a road. So you go from your vanishing point again, and we're going to add a main city road or main town road right in the center. So you're going to just do one line here and one line here. So it's going to look just like a big giant triangle. And then you're going to add some dotted lines for the road lines. You're going to get smaller in the back, and then as it gets closer and closer, it's going to get bigger. Just like all these buildings, as it gets towards the back, it's going to get smaller and smaller, but then as it gets closer to you, it gets a lot bigger and bigger. So what I want you to do is then you're going to add in all different details. You can erase some of these lines that you don't want, or if you do, you can add in some more tiny buildings. Also, if you want to add in some in the background here, you can add in another building here. It doesn't have to be on the same plane right here, but you can add in another one in the back. Just remember, if you add one in the back here, for example, like this, we'll try to sneak one in the background. We'll add a very tall skyscraper in the background. So you start with the square first. I'm gonna cut off this square, even though we're gonna pretend this is where the square goes to. Then this corner here, yep, you guessed it, it's gotta go right into the vanishing point. So very, very lightly, we're gonna draw a line that connects down to the vanishing point. Oh, and it's actually gonna get cut into, well, just a little bit shy of there. I would like you to try to do these without a ruler, because it would help you to just practice getting some sketch lines. Sketch lines are these kind of lines where you see there's several different lines that we do here, and then it'll help you just to get practice, because these sketch lines can help turn into shadows. So when you have the sketch lines here, it'll help, you can use the one that you like, but then it'll help turn it into shadows, which is a little trick for when you're learning how to draw, that it'll help turn it into your shadows that you will want. So I would like you to try to do it without a ruler, because it'll help you improve your artistic skills, and it'll help you get better at your own drawings. What you can add in also, I'll show you how to do this sky here. I'm gonna put a sun right here in the middle. Hopefully if you're following along. Wait, we gotta add our little building in here, fix those lines. But we're gonna add in a sun. So we're gonna make it look like it's a sunset. Maybe like, it'll look like a western country road. So we're gonna add in some sun rays. And then these actually, the sun rays can even follow the perspective too, even though the sun is not necessarily always in the vanishing point, but we'll just do that for this picture, just for this lesson. So you're gonna add in the sun here, and then we're gonna add in maybe some more clouds. If you don't wanna put the sun here, you could put some mountains maybe. You could put in hills. If you wanna add in maybe even stormy clouds, that's fine. You can get creative with your sky. Just try to keep it realistic and don't go crazy and add in something that wouldn't be real. We're gonna add in some of the dimensions to the buildings here. I'll just add in the idea of these lines. Yeah, make sure they get the right direction. Because as you get better and better, we're gonna be looking and making sure that all your perspective lines are matching up. Especially if you wanna ever get into architecture or building design or construction, you're gonna wanna make sure that your drawings, if you ever design a building, your drawings are going to be looked at, and they want to make sure that they are proper proportions so you don't mess up the plans or the blueprints. All right, so there's an idea. I'm gonna even add a little sidewalk. You can add some street lights. I don't know, you can get creative with some of this. There we go. That's a cute little street light. All right. Then there's your basic idea. I'm gonna go back in later and add in some different lights, different windows and a doorway probably. Maybe I'll add the door on this side to give an idea of a different option. You could add even some mailboxes. You could add in some cars here, some people walking. We'll even add a little person. How about? We'll add a little tiny person. You got maybe even smaller because the person should not be bigger than the building. You want to make sure that your little person is in proportion to your buildings. Maybe they're shopping. We'll give her a little shopping bag. And a ponytail or a bun. All right, then you can add in other different things. If you want to add in even some signs, you could add in a little sign here on the top if this is like a shopping mall, or if it's even a billboard, you could add a little billboard. Try to think creative and make this one of your quality pieces of work that we can use. Some of you might be able to use for art competition. I'm gonna add some mountains here in the back. But this would be a great submission if you really take your time and do well on it. This would be a great submission for art competition for some of you, or even for just your own general portfolio, to have something really nice that you can show that you've been working on. So you can go in and add a lot more details, and then we'll add in some color to it later, or if you get really some nice shading, then you can keep it black and white. But I really want you to focus on making these look three-dimensional to add to your skill set. All right, so you're gonna keep working on it, and this will get you started, and we'll finish hopefully next time. This will probably take at least 2 lessons or 2 class times to work on. So don't worry if you don't get this much done in the class time, but just get at least a good start on it, and I will see you soon.